such a pleasure to be with you today and to talk about, really to be a voice for a program that is so near and dear to my heart. But you know, it wasn't always the case that I had a voice. In fact, when I was a little girl, I was pretty voiceless. When I was a little girl, growing up in a family, and you know, my family at that time was my grandma and my mom and my dad, and I had an older brother and had a couple little brothers and sisters that were younger. And, you know, Spanish and English was spoken in my home, but I didn't speak. I never spoke. My parents sometimes would hear some gibberish here or there. Mostly they would hear me talking to my older brother, because my older brother and I, we had our own language. And whenever I needed anything, it was my older brother who would translate for me. And I would make hand motions, etc. But really, I didn't talk to my parents, and I didn't talk to the world. My grandma, in fact, she was poor. She lived with us. And she would spend what little money she had to take me to the doctor. I remember going several times to the doctor, and she would say to the doctor, "I think she's deaf and mute." And the doctor would say, "She's just not ready to talk to you." And so that was my life. Then one day, my mom was reading the paper, and she saw on the front page that they were starting a new program called Head Start. And she said, that's the program for my Loretta. Pobrecita, mi Loretta necesita este programa. And so she went down to the school, and she signed me up for the Head Start program. And on the first day of Head Start, she dressed me all up, and she, it was only three doors down, 3 homes down at the corner. We'd cross the street, and there was Ann Lee Gore Elementary School, and that's where this Head Start program was. So my mom walked me down there. She took me to this kind of what looked to be like a kindergarten class or so where kids were in there, and she dropped me off. And when I realized that my mom was going to leave me alone for the day, I screamed and yelled, and I ran, and I grabbed her leg, and I wouldn't let go. And literally, they had to pry me off of my mom. And then my mom left me. She abandoned me. And I was crying and crying. I was just on the side of the whole show. Kids doing their thing, and I was crying, and I just could not stop crying. You see, I was really shy when I was young. Then something happened. Snack time. They had this watermelon and this celery with peanut butter. And I started eating this stuff, and all of a sudden, everything was okay. See, my mom wasn't much of a snack or a dessert lady. And so after that, I thought, okay, this isn't so bad. And then after lunch or after this snack time, they rolled out, my mom had sent with me this light blue beach towel and rolled it out, and was nap time. So between snack time and nap time, I figured I was living the high life. And I would go every day. My mom would walk me hand in hand, and so joyful to go to Head Start. And what I learned in Head Start, my alphabet, how to write my name, which for a little girl, Loretta, is pretty long. How to share toys, some toys I had never seen before, but really loved. I had this little red-headed doll I really liked. I had to learn how to share it with somebody else. How to socialize with other kids. It was really an amazing program for 6 weeks. At the end of the 6 weeks, this is the certificate that was handed to my mom. This is to certify that Loretta Sanchez, on the 27th day of August of 1965, has completed the project Head Start Child Development Course. 50 years ago. Head Start started 50 years ago, when then President Lyndon Johnson stood in that rose garden and said that they were going to help with the education of the disadvantaged children of our nation. Head Start. 50 years ago, Head Start. Who would have known that from Head Start and that little girl, I would go through school, would go to college, would get my MBA, would work in some of the biggest corporations in the nation, and would be standing before you as a member of Congress of the United States. I am Head Start. 32 million kids and pregnant moms have gone through the Head Start program for language development and for verbal achievement. We've seen decrease in behavioral problems of children who go through that program, a complete increase of self-esteem. We see kids graduating more often if they've gone to Head Start from high school, and more of them going to college, and we see less of them in our prison system. That's what Head Start does for our country. People talk all the time about the achievement gap that we see, right? The achievement gap between disadvantaged kids, let's say kids who are Latino like me, and Anglo population. And we work on this all the time in my district. We see the difference, this achievement gap. And I've got something to say today. That achievement gap can be lowered, can be brought, can be narrowed right at the get-go, right at the starting line. A preschool for children before they ever get to kindergarten. Let's make all of our children ready at the starting line of education in the United States by having Head Start. You know, Head Start is just not for kids. It's actually also about parents. I told you that my mom, even though she dumped me at school on the first day, that my mom actually was with me every step of the way. In fact, here's the front page of my hometown newspaper taking a hearing test in Head Start. There's my teacher. There's me in the middle, cute kid. Even cuter today. And there's my mom by my side, helping. Because not only does Head Start do teaching, but it also checks out your hearing, your vision, whatever problems you might have from a health perspective. Because many kids coming from disadvantaged backgrounds don't get that type of care. Now my mom is an amazing person because Head Start taught her how to be a parent. Remember, I come from a home of 2 Mexican immigrants. And so usually in an immigrant home, it's the mom that negotiates, that navigates the new system of the United States. And my mom was that person. And Head Start taught her how to advocate for her kids, what to look for, what to demand, what to want, what to see. And in fact, my mom had 7 children when all was said and done. And she was an advocate for each and every one of those. And Head Start taught her how to do that. Because the parents are advocates. They learn to read to their kids. They read more often to their kids than those who don't go to Head Start. They are advocates for them in the system. They use less physical discipline with their children once they've gone through the Head Start program. I should have sent my dad there. And the parents themselves are more apt to find an education for themselves also. So my mother, after raising 7 children, she started going to school to get her GED, and then her BA, and then her credential to teach. And then she taught for 17 years in the public schools, advocating and helping others' children. Yeah, my mom is pretty special. In fact, my mom is the only mom in the history of these United States to send 2 daughters to the United States Congress. just don't take my word for it. Let's look at the economic benefits of Head Start. We know that for every dollar that we spend in the Head Start program, the U.S. makes $9 in benefits. What do I mean by that? What I mean is less incarceration, people with better jobs, education, etc. And yet, the U.S. ranks 25th in the world for early learning enrollment. In fact, 1 out of every 6 kids that qualify for Head Start actually get a slot. Fewer than 30% of the 4-year-olds are enrolled in a quality preschool program. So, this past year, we had 1.076 million kids in Head Start. And yet, because of budget cuts, we're looking at 53,000 of those slots being cut. So my ask of you today is to help me be a voice, for all of us to be voices for a program that truly helps children to become what America does best: productive, joyful, giving back to community. I am a voice. You can be a voice also. Thank you.